Good afternoon and welcome to the Kentucky Center for Mathematics afternoon sessions. This week we are doing our KCM favorites. These are books that really have had a significant influence on a variety of the Kentucky Center for Mathematics folks in terms of just math education. These are books that we really think make a difference for students in the classroom. Today we have Bonny Davenport. Bonny is a regional consultant with the Kentucky Center for Mathematics over there in the western part of Kentucky. And Bonny has gotten to be quite the expert in our book today, which is Math Fact Fluency. Bonny, I look forward to learning from you today.
Great, thank you so much. Got my book right here too. I've really enjoyed digging deep into that book and learning so much from the authors. So I am Bonny Davenport, and if you ever need anything from me, there's my contact information. Email me anytime. This is our Kentucky KCM website. If you have missed any of our virtual presentations, you can go back and look on our website, and they're there for you, and all the links to all the handouts, all of our resources, just everything that's KCM. Go check out that website and you can learn more about us. And then here is our book for today that we're going to be talking about, Math Fact Fluency by Jenny Bay Williams and Gina Kling. And I put a link to the ASCD store, and of course you can get it from Amazon or any of your other book retailers, but I put the link to that one because if you don't have the book and you want a little bit more information to see what it's about, you can click on that, and it's got the first chapter there for you, so you can go ahead and read the first chapter while you're waiting for your Amazon delivery to come. And it also has book study information for our friend who's getting ready to do a book study. Reasons why I love this book. So I have the dream job. I'm living the dream, as Julie Adams would say, and I get to travel all across Kentucky and talk to teachers and their students. And when I ask them, you know, what do you feel like your students struggle with the most, invariably 9 times out of 10 it comes back that they just don't know their basic facts. So when I saw Fact Fluency as one of the sessions both at the NCTM and our KCM conference, I rushed to go see, well, what are some strategies, what are some reasons why, what's some research that I could learn to share with teachers. And of course her sessions were amazing, and I left there with thinking, gosh, that's research-based, it's student-based, it's easy to implement, it totally makes sense. Why aren't we doing fact fluency that way? And so then I was reminded of a book that I saw in one of Tonda Thompson's sessions, and I think that Jenny Bay may use it in one of hers as well. But if you're riding a horse and it dies, get off. And I'm sure you're familiar with that theory or that book. But in education, it seems sometimes that we want to form a committee to look at why the horse isn't performing, or change the rider, or increase the horse's standards. But this is the way we've always ridden a dead horse, so why should we change now? And hopefully, when you read this book, you will get off that dead horse and adopt that pedagogy and move forward with fact fluency. Okay, this has a lot of words on it, but it's straight out of the book, and I wanted to include all the amazing things that these two ladies have done. The top author there is Dr. Jenny Bay Williams, and she is a Kentucky girl, and she is a mathematics teacher educator at the University of Louisville. She's written tons of articles, tons of research, authored, co-authored many books, and she and it goes on to talk about how she feels about fact fluency and how important that is. And then Gina Kling she's taught mathematics method courses for the past 15 years at Western Michigan University. She is also the author of many articles and books. Those are the two authors, one of the reasons why I love this book. And as I was researching, I came across this podcast with the authors, and it's about 20 minutes long, but it's well worth listening to. So we're just going to listen to about 2 minutes of it. And this, of course, is linked in my PowerPoint, so you can go in and go back and listen to it at your leisure. Hopefully it'll connect here. I'm going to start at about 2:20.
Very well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys for being here. Gina, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm based out of Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I've been teaching for about 20 years. Work with pre-service teachers, teach math courses, and my favorite thing to do is to work with basic fact fluency. So I've done a lot of work with kids, teachers, and I also have worked on a textbook series.
You know, I am so happy that you guys are on the show today. Of course, we're talking about your brand new book coming out here, Math Fact Fluency from ASCD Publications. Talk to us a little bit about the book. Gina, what can we find in it?
So one thing that Jenny and I really feel passionately about when we work with teachers and students with basic fact fluency is that we want teachers to understand the theory and the research, but we also want things they can just take and use right in their classroom. So there's a real blend in the book of the background, explanation of what fluency is, how kids progress through different phases to become fluent, and then there are a ton of games, a lot of different original games and some classic games so that kids can get meaningful practice with their basic facts, and then a lot of different assessment tools, because that's one of the major things we've heard for years that teachers just really need more of. So we've got lots of different ideas in the book for both games and tools for assessing facts.
And, you know, I was
Okay, so that's all we're going to listen to right now, but I do encourage you to go back and check that out because they go on to talk about many of the different facets of the book and what they believe and what the research has shown that they've done. Okay, so the whole crux of the book is based around these 5 fundamentals of fact fluency. And fundamental one is that mastery must focus on fluency. And this graphic is right out of the book. If you Google fluency or you ask someone who's not in education or even somebody that is in education and you say, hey, what does it mean to be fluent in your facts? They're going to say it means that you can do it automatically. And if you Google it, you're going to get 100 different sprint worksheet kind of things, mad minutes, where it's all about time. But there are 4 different aspects to fluency. There is accuracy, efficiency, flexibility, and appropriate strategy selection. So all 4 of those go together to create a procedurally fluent student. So we have to be able to hit all 4. And her research goes right in with our standards and with what we know to be good teaching. If you read through our Kentucky standards, you will see the word strategy listed time and time and time again. So her research really is learning to use the strategies to develop basic fact fluency. And then as good teachers, we know that we're supposed to build that procedural fluency from the conceptual understanding. And the book does a wonderful job going through teaching us exactly how to do that. Okay, so fundamental number 2 is that fluency develops in 3 phases. Phase 1 is counting, where students count with objects or mentally. Phase 2 is deriving and using reasoning strategies based on known facts. And phase 3 is mastery or automaticity. And she talks about mastery and automaticity being when a student can officially produce an answer within about 3 seconds. And in the book, it talks a lot about how we jump from phase 1 to phase 3 and never hit that phase 2. It means we go from skip counting right to flashcards and wanting to know things automatically. So I would love for somebody to unmute or to put in the chat box some idea of what you could think, what each phase of a child who is learning how to do 6 plus 7, what might they do in each one of those phases to do 6 plus 7?
So you've got someone in the chat box had put counting all in as an option first.
Absolutely, counting all, just either counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, counting all of those, or starting with 6 and counting on. Great. Thank you, Dee, for monitoring the chat there for me.
Got counting on as an option. Folks are putting in doubling 6 and adding 1 more. Doubles plus 1, counting to make 10, or the use of making a 10. Those are
great. So then you went from the counting strategies to deriving. They might do the doubles plus 1, 6 and 6 is 12, so 1 more would be 13, and then mastery would just be knowing it or being able to use those strategies really efficiently. Thank you for sharing those. Okay. Fundamental 3 is that the foundational facts must precede the derived facts. And so I'm going to give you just a moment to look at this progression that they have in the book, and just to think about the different aspects of the progression there. I'll give you just a moment to kind of look through that. Okay, so at the top we have the foundational fact sets, and it may be different than how we learned, or I learned in school to do my facts, starting with the plus or minus 0, 1, and 2, learning doubles, combinations of 10, and then 10 plus a number. It seemed like we went from, we got to know our zeros, we have to know our ones, we have to know our twos, and then tens was the easiest, and that was at the end. So it's just a different kind of thinking about the way that we structure our progression. Okay, give you just a second to look at the multiplication fact fluency flexible learning progression. And I would love to hear either in the chat box, or you can unmute and tell me what you notice, what you wonder, and how this is different from how you may have to teach it, or how you learned it.
I love that the 2s, the 10s, and the 5s are first, because those are what students are familiar with and comfortable with. And then moving on to the 1s and 0s, which sometimes that's started with first and they don't have a true understanding. And then really what I tell my students is, if you know your 2s, 10s, and 5s, you really can solve any problem.
Very good point. Thank you.
I agree. And as a math interventionist, that was like how my kids made sense of 7s, because those were like one of the trickiest facts for them, but they knew their 2s and 5s. And so by decomposing that 7, they just found so much success. And it was like a light bulb went off. Like, I don't have to memorize those 7s anymore.
Thank you. Anyone else have a notice or wondering that they want to share? Okay, great. That's exactly right. It starts with the foundational fact set again. Those lay the foundation. They build the house. You have to know those and be automatic and have fluency with those before you can go on to the derived fact strategies. Because those are the ones exactly, I can't remember who said it, but thank you for saying it, that the 2, 5s, and 10s, once you know those, you really have a way to have a strategy to get them all down. Great, thank you. Okay, and during our book study, this one was the hot topic, that time tests do not assess fluency. And go back and think about what it means to be fluent, efficient, flexible, accurate, and have appropriate strategies. Well, at best, the only thing that a time test can assess is accuracy. Did you get it right or not? So if they're not aligned with fluency, they're not effective formative assessment tools, they can even impede students' progress and cause anxiety. Why do we still use time tests? And I would love to hear from you guys some thoughts on that.
I know at my school, it's connected to the teacher's evaluation for the year.
So how well the student does on the time test?
I think it's more of the progress students make. It's a little bit like, you know, in reading, you do the F&P and how far they grow in levels. The math facts gets included through that.
Bonnie, the natural part of this is that we're not saying that kids shouldn't have mastery of these facts through automaticity. We're just saying that the timed aspect of that is what creates the anxiety. And so you've got to give kids enough time playing the games, working with the strategies, and kind of have dedicated class time for your children to be able to build these. So indeed, we do not, time tests aren't going to get you there. What's going to get you there is robust instruction and really good playing of games and activities where kids can automatically commit these to long-term memory.
Thank you. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so if we're not going to do time test, what are the alternatives that we might use? And she, in the book, gives more than 20 assessment tools that we can use instead of the time test. So the first one is journal writing, and you just give a prompt to the students and you have them respond to it, such as like, if you were going to tell a friend how to add 6 plus 7, what might you tell them? And that gives everyone an entry point, and it differentiates itself by the level of writing that the student might include and the level of thinking. The next one is observations, and there you can see all my Kentucky people, not all of them, but a lot of my Kentucky teaching friends down there, and they're doing lots of observations of their students as they're working. So they're making notes and thinking about what does that student know? And gameplay is a great time to do observations. So as your kids are playing all these great games, you're walking around intentionally with one of the many assessment tools that she gives you in the book, and you're looking and seeing and noticing and child watching and thinking about, what does that kid know? Because thinking about, okay, well, my kids don't know their facts. Well, what kids? And what facts don't they know? So observations are a great way for you to pinpoint that and know exactly where your kids are. And then, of course, interviews. Interviews are more one-on-one. If a child should know something within 3 seconds, you give them 30 or 10 problems, and it's really quick. So they can be really targeted on what, okay, I want to know, does everyone in the class know how to do this strategy, or where are they on their learning path? And then self-assessments, having the kids really have ownership of what they know and how they know it, and when it's appropriate to use the different strategies that they know. And then strategy quizzes. If you have to do a time test, she kind of gives you a way to change it a little bit so that you can ask the student, did you just know this fact, or did you use a strategy? And what was the strategy that you used if you have to use those quizzes? Okay, and then fundamental number 5 is students need that substantial and enjoyable practice. So she starts off with saying that in the beginning of instruction, we should be using problem solving and story problems, and that's kind of different than what a lot of curriculums do. They put the story problems at the end. So instead of getting that context and that concrete, they're starting with the abstract. And that's kind of the opposite of what research says. Research says we should start with the concrete and give things context, and then students can move on to more of the abstract. So there's some more of my little Kentucky friends playing one of the games from KCM. And then quick looks. And when I think about quick looks, I kind of think about subitizing and number talks. And that is an image that I took a picture of one of the games that we have on our KNP website, our KCM website, the KNP, the Kentucky Numeracy Project. And if you go on our website and you click on the Kentucky Numeracy Project and you go in and you look by standard or different ways, you're going to find all kinds of games in addition to what is in this book that support the philosophies and the research that have gone into this book. So quick looks are just like when you flash a dot card and you say, okay, what did you see and how did you see it? And she goes through the exact protocol for how to use a quick look and to do that effectively. So combining the quick looks with the stories, give that context and that practice that is fun to kids. And then of course you have your games. And she includes more than 40 games to provide that fact practice for you in the Fact Fluency book. This is a picture of one of the games that she offers in the book. And there is a link to it. I won't go to it, but you can go to it on your own. There's a link that Jenny Bay Williams tweeted out, and it's a someone who's going through and explaining exactly how to do the trios game. So that's definitely worth a look. So combining stories with the quick looks and the games give kids that repetition and that practice that they need to develop the strategies. Because we don't want to push those strategies on them. We want to be very deliberate in the kind of games that we select that elicit the strategy we want them to learn. Any wonderings or thoughts on those? And if you are putting something in the chat, then you'll have to tell me.
I just unmuted to tell you, some folks were talking about the games and activities on the website, and then stressing the importance of those games, opportunities for kids to play with this learning.
Great, thank you. Absolutely, if you haven't gone to the KNP website, you should definitely check that out. Thank you. All right. So in the end of the book, she talks about families and facts. And this is pictures from our Twitter account, which if you don't follow KCM on Twitter, you should, of our family math nights. And I know a lot of schools, unfortunately, didn't get to have their family math nights. And they're so important to help get everyone involved and all the stakeholders together and on the same page about why we're learning what we're learning. And the authors do a wonderful job of really giving honor to parents. They deserve to know why we teach the way that we do. And Dr. Williams in our book study said, you know, parents just don't want us experimenting on our kids. And that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of this new Common Core math, which isn't new. It's been around a long, long time. So, you know, the way we do math. So, they deserve to know, well, why are we doing things the way that we're doing them, and really considering the messaging that we send out to parents. If you adopt some of this pedagogy and go back and say, okay, well, we're not going to do these time tests anymore, and you go to a parent and you say, well, we don't do time tests here, are they going to think, well, why? Why don't you do time tests? That's the way I learned it. Why aren't you going to do them? And now my kid's going to fall behind, and is my kid going to know? And it just causes that anxiety for them, instead of saying something like, the research shows that time tests cause math anxiety, and we're going to go a different route this year, and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to really focus on strategies and those kind of things. to help parents understand and see. And then in the corner, I have another little shout out for our KCM resources. We have all kinds of family math resources available to you. So you can, that's a link that you can click on and go to see on our website the different things we have to support you, to support families. Okay, so we are at the end, and I just want to thank you for joining me today, and hopefully just this little taste of this book has encouraged you to move forward and get off that dead horse, and let's think about new ways that we might learn about math fact fluency. And there's the link that goes to the ASCD store, where you can get all of the things that the first chapter, you can order the book, and it has stuff for if you want to do your own book study. And of course, tomorrow is another wonderful book, Taking Action, Implementing Effective Mathematics. So you don't want to miss out on that one and learning about that book. And this is the website that I referenced, and you can see at the top it's got resources, and if you go on there you can find the KNP guide, and it's being revamped, and it's going to be very user friendly. It already is, so you can go on there and look at those. And then are the rest of our KCM favorites. If you missed us, go back and check us out. If you want the link for the one for tomorrow, it will be on there as well. And then Facebook and Twitter, you need to follow us on those different sites. Okay.
Bonny, we thank you so much for sharing your expertise. I can see why you love this book. What great ideas with regards to math fact fluency, something that's cornerstone and foundational for all kids. This is the time where we give Bonny a shout out and tell her the things that we love that she talked with us about today. Bonny, I personally like going back to the 5 fundamentals. That reminds me over and over and over again the things that I need to be thinking about when we're doing the message with regards to fact fluency. It looks in there that several schools are going to be thinking about using this book as a book study. So a great way we have inspired, and you have done a great job in your leadership of inspiring folks to do that. Folks saying thank you for the resources, thank you for the information. One of the things that I do want to mention is in the handout is a very powerful 2-page visual that Jenny Bay Williams shared with the Kentucky Center for Mathematics. And we share that with all the folks that we come into contact with, because it's kind of the one-stop shopping with regards to thinking about your math fact fluency. So I say to you.
Yeah. Oh, Kelly, let me tell them one thing. I completely forgot about the stuff that's in the handouts. Okay, number one, you have a little cheat sheet about the progressions, and you can cut yours out and do it front and back and stick it in your book or your curriculum book. And then there's a bookmark with questions about the different things you can ask while they're playing games. And then of course that 2-page handout, which is beautiful. So sorry, yes.
So that's fun. So again, I remember when we were at the KCM conference, we got our bookmark from one of the sessions that the author did. And then of course, referencing back that handout. So the Kentucky Center for Mathematics hosts an afternoon session every day at 2 o'clock. We are so glad that you join us. Please be here tomorrow. We're going to be talking about high school mathematics. And I think that everybody needs to think about the math progressions that go through not only just elementary school, but middle and high. So we hope to see all 40, 50 of us back again tomorrow. We thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us.